strongly that Texas got it right in 2001 when we became the first of 18 states to provide in-state tuition for the undocumented students known as Texas Dreamers, and who have attended Texas schools for at least 3 years, graduated from high school, and have signed a sworn statement that they will seek legal residency when available. This great accomplishment was one that had overwhelming bipartisan support in both houses, as I said earlier. Members of the 77th legislature were able to recognize that by passing House Bill 1403 with 142 votes in the House and 27 votes in the Senate, Texas would be investing in its future. It's as simple as that. It was signed and supported by Governor Perry. Senate Bill 1819 undermines both the spirit of bipartisanship embodied by the 77th legislature and the best interests of the state by demonizing those who have earned the right, I want to repeat this, earned the right to pay in-state tuition by doing well in Texas schools, gaining admission, and paying taxes in the state. The bottom line is that our economic future depends on educating these young people. I think Steve Murdoch, our former demographer, has said this over and over and over again. These kids are not a threat to us. They are our future. And so with that, I want to now call on some of my colleagues up here to say a few words. Just on cue. Are you ready, Senator Garcia?
Always ready.
All right, you're next. Senator Garcia from Houston.
Always ready for a good fight. Well, and it is really unfortunate that our leadership has chosen to have this fight on what is probably about 1% of students in higher education today, rather than working together to find better ways to lower tuition or reduce student debt to 100% of the students. So for us today, it is about a fight, because we're here to say that we will fight and keep fighting till the end. Since 2001, the Texas Dreamers have earned over 10,000 degrees, including certificates, associates, master's, and doctoral degrees from all our state public institutions. Many of these students came to the United States with their parents as young children and should not be deprived of an opportunity to obtain a degree in higher education simply because of their parents' choices. We should never be a state that punishes children for the actions of their parents. These students do not get a free ride. They have earned the opportunity to continue on to higher education by meeting the requirements of a 3-year residency and by graduating from a Texas high school. Students pay sales taxes. They pay taxes that go to our general revenue fund. If they buy a car, they pay a motor vehicle tax. If they're of age and go drink, they pay a beverage tax. They are not here on a free ride. In fact, for all those people who think this is about free tuition, that is just completely false. They in fact pay about $51.6 million in tuition a year. $51.6 million. And imagine if some of these students got discouraged and did not go to college. That might mean that whole $51.6 million, or some portion of it, that wouldn't come to the state in revenues, which means it would increase tuition for other students. Allowing these students to pay in-student rates would make higher education more affordable and accessible for all students that meet the proper residency and academic requirements. Today, we ask our state leadership to have a little more heart and a hell of a lot more Texas common sense, because Texas invests $240 per week on these students in school, or $26,013 through high school. With a degree, they could earn $1,066 per week, or an investment return of $4 for every dollar invested in education. It just makes good sense to continue investing. If repealed and students will become discouraged and could drop out, they could cost the state of Texas millions and millions of dollars. Today, we will fight to preserve in-state tuition for all students, regardless of status. We will fight for all the aspiration of these students and their families and for generations to come. Again, let's get ready. Let's go for their fight. And I would like to hand over the microphone to Representative Eddie Rodriguez, Vice Chair of the Mexican-American Legislative Caucus. Eddie?
Again, my name is Eddie Rodriguez. I'm Vice Chairman of the Mexican-American Legislative Caucus. A lot of what I was going to say has already been said, but let me just say that for the Mexican-American Legislative Caucus, this is a very, very important issue for us. It's probably the most important issue for us this session. So we stand ready to fight with our Senate colleagues against this draconian bill. Should it get to the House floor, it will be a heck of a fight on our side. As has been said, many of these students, they're not here. They were brought here as young people. They're committed to being a part of our society. They paid their taxes. Their parents pay their taxes. They're ready to be a part of our economy, which is another aspect of this, is how much they'll bring into our economy. This bill, frankly, is heartless as far as I'm concerned. And the Mexican-American Legislative Caucus stands to fight it vehemently. And with that, I just want to say to my Senate colleagues that we're here for you, and we're here to fight this terrible bill. And
Thank you. Well, I'll go ahead and finish. Thank you, Representative Rodriguez. By the way, my communications director who is here will probably kill me because I didn't introduce myself. I'm Senator Jose Rodriguez. I'm the chairman of the Senate Hispanic Caucus. And of course, Senator Garcia is the vice chair of the Senate Hispanic Caucus. And we're glad that the Mexican-American Legislative Caucus was here as well. Next, I want to introduce our colleague in the Senate, Jose Menendez from San Antonio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jose Menendez. I'm a newly elected state senator from San Antonio, but I was here in 2001, and I was proud to cast a vote for this bill when my good friend Rick Noriega put this bill on the floor. And everything that he said would happen did happen. All of those positive things. And no one can say that Rick Perry was ever a liberal governor. No one can ever say that he was a liberal governor, but he knew that this was the right thing to do. You know, this is especially painful to me as a son of immigrant parents who, my dad had spent his first year in this country washing dishes because he had a 4th grade education. And every day that I left for school, he would tell me, he said, you know, your education is your job. When I got to high school and I wanted to work, he'd say, no, your education is your job. He said, when I got to college and I said, Dad, I want to start getting the job, and I finally had to sneak off to get some part-time jobs. He said, your education is your job. And so he said, you know, that education is what's going to let you not have the hard life that we've had, where they work 7 days a week to provide for us. We all know that a college education is a gateway to global opportunities. Obviously, for me, the only reason I've had the privilege, in my opinion, to serve as a state senator is because it's been because of my education. I don't think that a college education should be about where you're from, or it should be about where you're headed. We cannot tell these kids that they are defined by the mistake or the change or the decision of their parents. Their parents' decision should not impact them for the rest of their life. These students who qualify for the Texas DREAM Act, they have a burning desire to give back to Texas, into the community they call home. This weekend, I spoke to Diego in San Antonio, a UTSA junior, who only has 30 hours left to graduate. And in talking to him, I said, so you only take another year, 15 hours a semester? He said, well, I had to drop back to 12 because I couldn't afford the 15. Well, what's the difference? He said, it's about $1,000. So I said, so if the DREAM Act goes away, and you go from $9,000 a year to 20, then you can't even afford to finish your degree. He said, that's a sad reality I really don't want to think about. You know, folks, we're educating the next generation of doctors, teachers, engineers, innovators, and this bill, it could end all of that. This bill will drive more families into the shadows, and it's going to halt the education of thousands of hardworking students. You know, this is a misguided effort to shut out the best and brightest of these immigrant kids from erecting barriers. These dreamers have the potential to be our best and brightest. It's just simple. We should never close the doors of opportunity on anyone. We should recognize that our future is dependent on allowing children to succeed. And you know, we would not have had the bipartisan support. We wouldn't have the Texas Association of Business here ready to join us in this fight if this wasn't just smart policy to keep in-state immigration to in-state tuition for these dreamers. It just makes no sense. We gotta ask the question, you need to ask the question of the people that are pushing this bill, what are you trying to fix? Because they're not fixing anything, they're making a bigger mess. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator. I'd like to take a moment here to have both Representative Noriega and Garcia, the authors of the DREAMER legislation back in 2001, to say a few words now that you're here. Please. We're honored by your
Thank you,
presence.
Senators and Representatives. Interestingly, in 2001, Domingo and I both filed the bill, just to give you a little context. And at that time, he said, well, you go ahead, we're going to run with your bill, House Bill 1403, and I'm going to pursue the driver's license bill. Both bills passed, and Governor Perry decided to pass the education bill at that time in 2001. And look what's occurred now. I don't think it's a coincidence, perhaps, that we're having this bill heard today on the heels of Passover, the Exodus, the freedom from slavery of the children of Israel, or Easter, resurrection and new birth and new life. I'm not stealing your thunder, Pastor, but the reason that I mention that is that, though that we have to go back and re-explain to a whole new body of why this was good policy, and it was mentioned by these distinguished members of why it's been good for Texas, through any empirical metric that you want to look at of whether or not this has been good public policy for the state of Texas, irrefutable. And on top of that, many other states that Texas has set the way has done likewise in their states to pursue legislation such as House Bill 1403. So actually, given this hearing, and what I would like the press to really focus on, and the reason that we got this bill passed the evening when Irma Rangel, chairwoman, first Latina representative in the Texas House of Representatives from Kingsville, Texas, chair of the Higher Education Committee in the House, and she heard that bill that night, and there was something that magical and powerful occurred. Typically, as most of you know, a bill is heard, it's set aside, wait a few weeks, and voted out. Republicans and Democrats alike on that committee had heard every story from every student until they were done. Wait late until the next morning. It was something incredible and powerful that occurred. The committee unanimously voted the bill out that evening. This bill is not about all of us here and being able to have some type of oratory skills. This is about the future of Texas, and I want you to get to know these students today. Listen to their stories. Understand what they've done, what kind of trials and tribulations they are pursuing. The hope that we have instilled in a state in them to do well. It's amazing. That is the true story of Texas. Now, the challenge is with this particular bill is that we have some more education to do. I look at it as an opportunity of this whole new body that's here on both sides of the aisle to re-educate them of why this is still good public policy. What is it that has occurred that is no longer good public policy? When we have so many of these students that are now graduating from college. What's broke, as was mentioned by Senator Menendez. So I invite you, I challenge you to meet these students, humanize, understanding what this legislation is about, and as was mentioned by the chairman, it's about the future of Texas.
Thank you, Representative Garcia. Just briefly.
My name is Domingo Garcia, and I'm also a co-author of House Bill 1403. And I'm here because 24,000 students are enrolled in Texas colleges today because of that bill. They have the opportunity to become productive members of our society, to become doctors, lawyers, accountants, invent businesses, and the new technology, an app. But if this bill is repealed with this mean-spirited effort, those dreams and aspirations would be denied. And those students would not have that opportunity. And that's why this attempt to repeal the in-state tuition bill is un-Christian, un-Texan, un-American, and it's a slap at the Statue of Liberty and everything she stands for, what America stands for. And that's why we're going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you for those words. And now, since we're talking about the future of Texas and the economic impact, the business community is behind this effort. So we want to invite here representing Bill Hammond, AJ Rodriguez, one of my long-lost cousins. Where is he? Over here.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and just to visit with everyone, and I appreciate all the leadership on this particular issue and what's happening, what's occurring here. So I'm here serving as an officer of the Texas Association of Business, and it's 4,000 member companies. And in addition to that, the company I work for, Zachary Group, in 2012, our company took a very public stance in support of comprehensive immigration reform. We see the current law, the continued practice of offering non-citizen resident Texans the in-state tuition rate at our institutions of higher education as a natural extension of this policy. The current law applies to less than 2% of our student population, and those students have paid $52 million in 2013 for their tuition and fees. The cost of the Texas DREAM Act is small, and the return to our economy is great, and so we simply see this as a wise investment. When these students graduate, they'll become part of Texas' workforce. As you know, our state suffers from a worker shortage and also a skills gap as well in several sectors of our economy. And we need policy to remain in place that provide for more opportunity and more college graduates, not less. On behalf of TAB and Zachary Group, thank you for the opportunity to present our position.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Next, I'd like to call up Selena Moreno with MALDEF and the Trust Coalition, and she will be introducing two of our Dreamer students who will say a few words to us.
Senator, my name is Selena Moreno, and I'm an attorney with MALDEF. MALDEF is one of the co-founders of the Trust Coalition, and the Trust Coalition is made up of members of the faith-based, law enforcement, business, and advocacy communities. And you'll hear from many of our members today during the testimony about why this bill is bad public policy for economic, moral, and educational reasons. In addition, this bill would would risk Texas taxpayer dollars by exposing Texas to costly litigation. This bill would put higher education officials in the position of federal immigration judges to be making determinations of who is and who is not lawfully present in the United States. You'll hear from some of these higher education officials here today about why they neither have the expertise nor do they want to be put in the position of immigration judges. In fact, they want these students to succeed, and I'm very, very honored to introduce to you here today a couple of these students. First, I would like to introduce Loren Campos, one of the bright young star who is filling one of the critical high-need business areas of Texas in our workforce. He's an engineer. He graduated right here from UT Austin and from University of Houston with his master's. And I want to bring up Loren right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Loren, and I'm part of a Texas-wide campaign called Don't Mess with Texas Dreamers. And in partnership with United We Dream, which is the national undocumented youth-led network. It was a cold evening when I crossed the Mexico-U.S. border. The excitement of exploring and learning from a new culture was a sharp contrast to the uncertainty and obscurity of not knowing how this transition will impact my life. I was 11 at the time. Now, 15 years later, I am living the consequences. I was with my mother, a strong woman who raised 6 children on her own. And as we were driving into Houston, the first thing that struck me were the skyscrapers in Houston downtown. I remember looking over to my mom and telling her, one day I will be an engineer so I can help build buildings as beautiful as those. In high school, I did not get the chance to obtain a driver's license because I was undocumented. I was constantly emotionally terrorized about what people would think about me because of my immigration status. However, this did not stop me from getting straight A's, from competing in national robotics competitions, and playing soccer for my high school varsity team. In 2007, when I was about to graduate from high school, I was confronted with another challenge. I could not fill out my FAFSA because I did not have a social security number. At the time, I felt like getting a social security number was as easy as applying for one, and that's what I did. I remember how scared I was when I walked into the Social Security Administration office. I went straight to a lady at the front desk, I introduced myself, and I told her that I was there to get my social because I was applying for college. She said, "Do you have a Texas ID?" told her, no, the only thing that I have is my consular ID. She looked at it, and then she looked at me straight in the eyes, and she said, you need to leave. I was ready to give up. I was ready to give up my dreams of becoming an engineer. Then I realized that the sacrifices my mother had made deserved more than mere complacency. I continued knocking on doors, and I found out about House Bill 1403, also known as the Texas Dream Act. This law opened the doors to what I thought was an impossible dream, a college education. I graduated with my master's this past December in civil engineering, and fortunately, I was able to adjust my status. I started working this past January designing the buildings that inspired the first time I stepped foot in Houston, Texas. My projects also include the renovation of a middle school in Bryan, Texas, and the terminal extension of Bush Intercontinental Airport. My degree will enable me to contribute even more to the economy by possibly buying a new car or a home and paying more in taxes. We have not received a free ticket into college. This is an earned opportunity. Therefore, I want to ask our Texas lawmakers to oppose bills like SB 1819, a bill that will shut the doors of opportunity for young Texans like me. We consider Texas our home, and we want to be able to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Loren. Now I'd like to bring up Lupita Reyes, who graduated from high school in Dallas, came here to UT Austin after graduation, and is an example of why this bill, SB 1819, is so ill-placed in the Subcommittee on Border Security. It is offensive that bill is being heard in that subcommittee, particularly when we have students and people like Lupita Reyes, who wants nothing more than to serve in our armed forces. And I want to bring up Lupita to share her story.
Good morning, my name is Lupita Reyes, and I'm here today really scared but at the same time. And I realized this is the same feeling that I shared whenever I first came to this country. I was 11 years old and I was brought here as a decision of my parents. Why? Because they decided that it was better for us, me and my other two sisters, to receive a better education, which is something that they did not have whenever they were my age. So today, I'm here to let you know that whenever I first graduated from high school, I came here with the opportunity to pursue an education at the University of Texas at Austin. And unfortunately, I had to leave back home after 1 year of education. Why? Because education, the tuition cost was too high. Obviously, my parents were not able to afford paying for or helping me pay with half of my tuition, so I had to go back home. And unfortunately, with this bill, it would have been impossible for me to even try to go to college. So I'm here, like I said, scared because this would not only affect me, it's not going to affect 5 to 6 students. These are thousands of students whose dreams are crushed and who will not be able to pursue higher education. And that's all because of this bill. Today I'm here to let you know also, I try to pursue a position into enlisting in the military. I would like to join the Navy if I have the opportunity in the future. Now, how can you tell me that we are a threat to this country whenever I stand here with patriotism that this nation has given me the chance to experience and has given me the opportunity to pursue my dreams? So I advise you to please reconsider and to review the bill carefully. This will only cause a disaster and not give the opportunity of students to pursue their dreams in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next and finally, we have Jeff Patterson with the Catholic Conference. Dr.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Jeffrey Patterson with the Texas Catholic Conference of Bishops here in Texas. As our faith teaches us, the human dignity and the expansion and opportunity for achievement is extremely important. And the miracles that we see, the Texas miracle that we see, is based on dreams and prayers. So it's a moral imperative for us today, and our support for for preventing this legislation, for the achievement and the betterment of people as a moral imperative. And so we encourage the rest of the senators and representatives here today and support them in their efforts going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patterson. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. The hearing is about to start, so hopefully you'll stick around and ask some questions of us later. We've got to get to the hearing. Thank you all very much for being here.
Gracias.